This year marks the 15th anniversary of the ICJ advisory opinion on Kosovo's declaration of independence.
The court has concluded above that the adoption of the Declaration of Independence of the 17th of February 2008 did not violate general international law, Security Council Resolution 1244, or the constitutional framework.
And when the presiding judge of the International Court was about to read out the conclusions, I remember that we were all listening very attentively, and even President Ahtisaari in Finland was also following very closely what happened. And when the presiding judge came to the conclusion that Kosovo's declaration of independence was not in violation of international law, there was a sigh of relief among the international friends of Kosovo, and of course there was jubilation in the streets of Pristina. And I got a direct phone call, I remember, from Martti Ahtisaari congratulating us and expressing his satisfaction, joy, that the project that he had initiated with his plan had in a way been justified and recognized from a legal point of view. When I was working in Kosovo as international civilian representative, and in particular when we were preparing for the outcome of the International Court's deliberations, we thought that we had already achieved quite a bit in terms of state building. We had ensured that the key institutions were up and running. The Constitutional Court was functioning and had already delivered some important and courageous judgments. The central bank was stable and had authority. So, in a way, my impression at that time was that Kosovo's independence was de facto irreversible.
Opinion from 15 years ago. The point that I made in particular was how good it was to work with the delegation of Kosovo and how experienced they were and how sensible they were, and really it was much better to work for Kosovo than it is to work for many other governments that I've worked for. Various reasons for this. Firstly, I think they knew what their objectives were. They had very realistic approach to the court. We had a direct line of communication with the President Seju, and with the Foreign Minister Husseini, and that made it much easier to work with Kosovo. That doesn't happen with all countries. We of course had two very good international lawyers from Kosovo on the team, Vjosa Osmani, who I understand is doing quite well in Kosovo now, and Kerim from the University of Kosovo, of Pristina. So we were very lucky with our team. They chose 4 foreign lawyers, which is a good number. It's not too many. You should never start with too many. And we worked very closely together and very carefully, very well prepared. I think the Kosovo team, the home team if you like, the people in Pristina, were very good at informing all the politicians in Kosovo, the leaders of the other government parties. They were very good at talking to the media, and the media were also very responsible, I thought, compared with in other countries, because they accepted that everything we were doing was confidential. Nothing is published until you go to the oral hearing, so we didn't even tell them how many pages our pleadings were, because that shouldn't be published. And the media in Pristina seemed to accept that.
In 1999,
During the war, I was the contact person between the Foreign Ministry and the Ministry of Defense. And I was, of course, involved a lot. And after the bombing stopped, then we got this resolution. And of course, I told the people in our ministry, how can we have such a strange resolution? How can you expect the people even to want to stay in Yugoslavia after what has happened? And then they said, Robert, you must read it very carefully, because you can see it's meant to be the first step to a final solution to be negotiated.
On the 15th anniversary of the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice regarding Kosovo's declaration of independence, we had the chance to discuss the broader legal as well as political implications of this decision 15 years ago.
There are 3 points that are still relevant in relation to the ICJ advisory opinion. First of all, it is that the advisory opinion put an end to a political use of international legal doctrines with which Kosovo's declaration of independence was contested and labeled as illegal.
So far as the case itself is concerned, I think there are many important issues that were debated. People often say, did Kosovo win the case? Well, I think they did win the case, even though it's an advisory opinion. It's not like an ordinary case between two states, because Serbia brought the case, Serbia dreamt up the question, Serbia wanted to get some benefits out of it, and I don't think they did. I think the court didn't agree with Serbia. It largely agreed with what Kosovo had said, and it led to more countries recognizing Kosovo when the opinion came out. So I think all in all, it can be said that that Kosovo won the case.
I think the one important aspect of the case, I mean, the proceedings and the opinion was certainly the question which was asked by the General Assembly. Everybody knows that this question was submitted by Serbia and formulated by Serbia. And after all, if you read the opinion of the court, you see that it has not been the right question which has been asked to the court. And Serbia certainly tried to make the court change its mind about the question they have submitted before.
So the ICJ's Kosovo advisory opinion is, in my view, of a monumental proportion. It stands as a landmark moment, and mostly so about what it effectively did. Of its many contributions and effects, it dismantled the core legal and political arguments against Kosovo's statehood.
What I find particularly important is paragraph 81 of the opinion, where the court clearly distinguished unilateral declarations of independence or declarations of independence that are merely unilateral from those declarations of independence that are illegal. And it follows clearly from the court's reasoning that a declaration of independence is not illegal merely because it is unilateral, but there has to be something else must happen. An illegality needs to be attached to it for a declaration of independence to be illegal under international law.
The advisory opinion has provided a lot more guidance than it was initially understood by many scholars and practitioners. Looking carefully at the advisory opinion, it is clear that it has ruled that the declaration of independence in the context of Kosovo was not unlawful. And this finding was not made so because the court would look only in isolation what this document of Declaration of Independence means, but by comparing and contrasting with other instances that the court had found violations of international law, namely arguing that if a Declaration of Independence emanates from cases concerning the breaches of jus cogens norms, including unlawful use of force, that would be an unlawful one, which was not in the present case.
The clarity that came with the court's decision shifted the international conversation from a contentious legal dispute to a pragmatic diplomatic engagement. It helped open space for more recognitions of Kosovo's independence, normalization, and Kosovo's integration into the broader international community.
And the main argument that I put forward during today's discussion is it important as it was for Kosovo's statehood and for Kosovo's ability to foster its subjectivity in the world stage. We should not forget that international law, problematic as it is and with all the problems that it has, is always a continuation or a reflection of global politics, and it does not merely operate in a vacuum.
I think the outcome was very positive because it affirmed from an international point of view the legality of the institutions and the consolidation of the state of Kosovo internally.
That it supported Kosovo's ambition to further consolidate itself as a respectable member of international community of states willing to contribute to peace and prosperity in the world.
15 years ago, when the ICJ delivered its Kosovo advisory opinion, many commentators were very quick to criticize the court for delivering a non-opinion. They argued that the opinion was not comprehensive enough, that the ICJ avoided questions of statehood, recognition, the right of self-determination. However, the ICJ was really not asked to pronounce or to make any pronouncements on these issues. So the fact that the opinion was somewhat narrowly constructed was the consequence of the question posed to the court. I think, however, that the ICJ's advisory opinion was still much more comprehensive than many scholars would think or argued at the time. And it has profound impact on both general doctrine, on declarations of independence and statehood under international law, and for the status of Kosovo.
The third and last point is that the ICJ advisory opinion was able to provoke the curiosity of endless list of academicians and scholars to review, analyze, study, and contribute to the development of relevant parts of international public law and international institutional law, except that it contributed on numerous issues related to the exercise of the ICJ jurisdiction, the relationship between the powers of the Security Council and General Assembly when it comes to the issues of advisory proceedings, and many other topics that are still relevant.
And the court instead found that the people who adopted this declaration were the representatives of people of Kosovo. The word people in the context of the ICJ and international law carries a particular weight, as under the law of self-determination it is only the peoples that have the right to self-determination, including in certain circumstances to create a state.
I think the case is quite important still and still referred to for things like how to interpret Security Council resolutions, which is something some of us do every day. It was important for what it said about the relationship between the Security Council and the General Assembly. At least it looked into that very carefully.
15 years later, the court's legacy is not just legal, it is institutional and it is political. It is a story of how international law can quietly yet resolutely enable peace and prosperity.